Today for New Music Monday, we're going to check out the long-awaited release from Atoms for Peace, and it's called Amok. If somehow you're unaware of who Atoms for Peace are, they are the much-hyped supergroup that feature among other people Tom York of Radiohead and Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And while I'll freely admit that I'm not a huge fan of the recent work from either of those bands, I listen to everything both of them put out because if nothing less, they're always like nothing else you'll find anywhere. The fact of the matter is, this album starts off with one of the most intriguing and engaging sounds I've heard in a very long time. It has an excellent tempo and tone to it, and it brings an almost unparalleled amount of balance between a wide range of genres and styles. But the album hits a snag very quickly because all three of the first songs sound exactly the same. And so you run into the situation where at first it sounds really good, but then it gets a little boring and overdone. And I honestly found myself having trouble deciphering where one song ended and the next began, and not in the good way. But that feeling of repetition does go away after the first third of the album, and the group does an amazing job at completely separating the sound from anything any of them have done with any of their previous bands. So you have to take into account the fact that this is experimental music, and like any experimental sound, sometimes it's gonna work and sometimes it just won't. And while I give these guys huge credit for experimenting so heavily, the fact remains that there are some huge musical missteps that in no way should have been released formally. As the album continues, you'll find yourself realizing that the middle section of the album can also be largely passed over because while it's not repetitious like the first part, there's really nothing musically new or exciting or anything that's gonna blow you away in the least. But I will say that the final third of this album is where it starts to get good, and it's without question the strongest part of the album in terms of song structure and overall feel. This is where the group is clearly hitting their musical stride, and it makes you wonder why they buried it at the end of the album. Even after listening to it a few times, it's clear that these are the strongest musical moments, and the real question is going to become if people are willing to endure the first 30 minutes to get to this point. The song Stuck Together Pieces is without question the highlight of this album, and it nails the sound I think they were going for. It's truly a great track, and while it does get to be a bit long in the end, it's a strong enough song that it only wears out its welcome a little bit. Now at the same time, leading up to the release of this album, people have tried to force it into almost every single electronic subgenre you can come up with. So I feel the need to clear some of that up a bit. First off, this is not IDM or glitch in any way. It has small leanings towards it at different times, but it does not go into those genres enough to even come remotely close to that classification. Some other people have decided to try and call this ambient, but it misses that by a mile, and I don't think that was their intention. So after listening to it a number of times, I think the only appropriate genre classification, if you need one, is experimental rock, or maybe just general electronica, because taken as a whole, it really doesn't fit into any specific category. In the end, it is refreshing to hear such established musicians step so far aside from their normal sound. And while the record certainly has its moments, this album isn't gonna blow anybody away or change the face of music as so many people have tried to hype. And when it comes down to it, on the buy it or borrow it, when you look at this without any bias towards any of the musicians involved, it's a borrow it at best. So that's what I got for you guys today. I hope you dug it. If you did, go ahead and click subscribe, leave a comment, click like, whatever you want to do. You can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Tumblr right here, and I'll see you guys again tomorrow.